video about 3 games: Entrypoint, Operators, and Entrypoint Freelancer's Cut. These videos will each be called by their names except for Entrypoint Freelancer's Cut, which will be called Freelancer's Cut or the Freelancer's Cut. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get into the video. This video will be split into 3 parts, with recording timestamps for each game I'm covering, starting with Entrypoint. Entrypoint is one of the first games created by Gashado, being released on April 14th, 2017. However, the first time the game was opened publicly for free was on January 29th, 2019. It's a game where you are a criminal working for Halcyon, kind of, but I'm mainly focusing on the gameplay for the purposes of this video. With that being said, however, why the story is kind of whack. The story feels all over the place just playing the main 8 mission, because a lot of setup is placed on bonus content most players experiencing the story for the first time won't play. But here's what I understood after reading the wiki. The player is a criminal who joins Halcyon, but after Halcyon found out that their guy in the chair, whose name is Rose by the way, is a traitor, the player is also tempted to be assassinated, but is saved by Jackdaw, who is the antagonist up until this point. They then do some shenanigans, eventually destroy Halcyon from the inside out. However, the player dies in the process. Very sad. Story itself is fine. I feel like it just could have been told more cohesively, and overall it's just kind of complicated, especially considering most people playing the story for the first time won't play the extra missions that the setup is placed on. If you're gonna have setup, then have it be like at least a cutscene, but no, you have to place like 5 missions that most people won't even play, so they're just like, okay, this person's actually not on our team now, and because I was apparently supposed to know that beforehand. Back to the gameplay, it's just a little too unnecessarily complicated. Hey, so me and editing here. I was actually thinking about this recently, and I don't think that the gameplay is complicated, it's just unnecessarily realistic. I showed my grandpa one of the later games on this list, and in those games, sprinting or crouching doesn't give you the conspicuous status. So he was just asking, hey, if you're running around the place like a madman, because I am, honestly, then wouldn't somebody, like, take note of that? And I was like, no, they don't do that. However, in this game, they do that. However, because of that, it just doesn't feel very natural. So this is actually an important moment to realize that, like, sometimes the game is better to be not realistic than realistic if it makes the gameplay better, which this game did not do. So that's my opinion on that. Wabba-dibba-doo! Let's take the deposit as an example. Assuming the player wants to do things stealthily, they must use the hacker class to hack a computer and get to the vault code, among other things. However, to open this door, the hacker must use a drill, as the lockpick is not available to them. But since you're using a drill, when anybody sees the door, they will set off the alarm, because that door's not supposed to be broken, duh. So you're going to instead make a new character that is a thief, so that they can lockpick, because in this game, lockpicks are class dependent, not you can just do that whenever you want, dependent. Which, because they have the lockpick, they can open the door stealthily, so that no one will see. However, thieves can't hack the computer, which is required to beat the mission without thermite. And since we're doing things stealthily, thermite is not something we're really going for here. However, that's because the party is more party/multiple people focused. Where the other games, it's an option, it is never required of you. However, in this game, if you want to do things stealthily, you pretty much have to have a team with you. Otherwise, you're cooked. So, if you're doing this with multiple people, your friend, a thief, can open the door, not alerting anybody, and then you can hack it being a hacker. However, the problem with that is that most people, and by most people I mean myself, I don't have any real data, I'm just winging it. There's no research for this script, I'm just winging things. However, the problem with that is most people play alone, and therefore it's not the most fair, because either you got a subclass into Infiltrator with 13 levels, which by the way is what I did, look at my skill tree, it's kind of pathetic, or you have to make friends, which is arguably even more difficult. However, after checking the wiki, it seems that this has been somewhat regulated in later missions. Like, apparently the scientist level, or the scientist mission has like a USB drive that's important for some reason. I haven't actually played it because I'm bad, but like, you know. Anyway, I found this annoying because this video is supposed to focus on the deposit. You'll see why soon. And this was infuriating to the point that my skill tree looks like this. We've already been over this, it's pathetic, we all know this. And hey, speaking of the skill tree, since we're back on that topic, It's functional, nothing out of the ordinary, working fine and having enough balance between being complex and also being understandable. There is also another mission I have to go over, but I have less to say, being the financer. Basically, kill a guy and then steal his computer hard drive that he keeps in his safe for some reason. It's also pretty simple and, dare I say, the easiest non-tutorial mission in all the games I talk about today. It's split into two main buildings, a single bedroom and the whole rest of his penthouse. You may expect me to go another drill mant here, but no, guards won't detect the broken doors if you drill here and here. Except for that's only on recruit mode. I don't know if it doesn't work on other, like, higher difficulties. I've only played recruit because, yes, skill issue, ha ha ha. Please make fun of me in the comments. Well, those were 2 takes with probably like a solid 60% chance of me getting killed. So now on to the second and least content-filled game, Operators. Demo. The full game isn't out yet, but the demo. Operators is a game with a completely different engine and story, despite still being in the entrypoint universe. Creating sometime in December 2021, it follows the criminal team of Hygiene, who we know like nothing about. To summarize the game's lack of context, it's in demo. We're also not getting any major updates until the freelancer's cut is updated with all 8 missions, but I'll go over all the main things in this game. Firstly, this game doesn't have any skill trees. Instead, the player is given 12 pre-made characters to play as, each with their own class/subclass, as well as a 13th character with a balanced skill set and no custom avatar. There are also 3 missions, all being original. You have King Street and a quote, assassination of a CEO, where you climb up 3 stories of an office building and kill the guy. You also have Bathurst Street, an exclusively stealth-based mission where you hack and steal tech for a third party, and Dover Court Road, where you kill some people, then you kill some more people, and then you leave while killing a few more people in the process. There are also tutorials that explain 4 game mechanics well, being weapons, infiltrating, stealth, and hacking. These, however, do not do the best when keeping the player in flow state. Basically, the idea that you don't want your player to be bored, you also don't want them to be frustrated, you want them in this specific zone that keeps them engaged with the game. Is what I would have said if they didn't make 4 new tutorials, going over 4 new mechanics that instead of being things that the player can do, it's more so an introduction to obstacles the player will face. They also give you a somewhat safe area to use the first 4 mechanics you learned about in the first 4 tutorials, giving you an explanation of what to do, as well as making sure that if you do lose, you lose like 30 seconds of projects maximum. Finally, the final game, Entrypoint Freelancer's Cut, which is a recreation of all the main Entrypoint missions on the Operators engine with an all-new skill tree that honestly, I don't even know what's happening, and I've played the game for more than I'd like to admit. The game currently only has 2 missions, being the Deposit and Financer, which is why I specifically went over those 2 games during the entry point section. Starting with the Deposit, the bank's first floor is almost entirely different from the original, and the second floor is much longer as opposed to the original, where it's just a square with 2 other rectangular rooms on the same wall. The mason feels somewhat the same, just larger. They also added another way to enter on the opposite side, which starts you in the new area, which is also a great place to shoot this camera because otherwise it takes like a full minute to break through this door. And they also added a usage for that one brown room, with it being where you get the disguises. And it's also currently the best mission for getting money and is my frame, and is also my favorite in the game currently. The only other mission currently in the game is the Financer, which is completely different structure-wise. Firstly, there's an extra 4 where you start, which you can also get a disguise in and disable cameras in. Secondly, there's only 1 building as opposed to the 2 in the original. Thirdly, there's an elevator, which I think is pretty neat. Fourthly, since this game is social engineering, you can talk to Ryan and lead into your trap. And finally, you can blow up the safe, which according to the wiki, you couldn't do before. That's why the game is better. That's the only reason. Otherwise, Entrypoint is better by miles. I would generally, during this part, do some comparing and contrasting between the 2, but they're wildly different other than the idea of go up to the top of a penthouse and assassinate the guy, and it's the same character because it follows the same story. Even the layout of the house is, like, entirely different. I mean, it still has, like, the general house rooms, like, it has that kitchen, but also, like, most houses have kitchens. It's not really, like, revolutionary or, like, referencing the original. It's also completely different structure-wise, so it's just weird. It does, however, keep the general main parts of having the safe being hidden behind a curtain, and assassinating the guy and the hard drive. It's pretty much entirely different, but keeping the same general beats of the original, while also making it fairly different. Overall, an upgrade from the original, but I never really cared much for the original anyway. And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I personally didn't. I didn't really like how the video came out just because I wrote the script way too quickly, so the script was not long enough. My next video is either going to be a remaster of this one, which I don't think I'm going to do just because it'd be too samey, or it'll be on Forsaken because it's just so peak. A funny short fight film is currently in the works, summertime, and I have pretty much no summer camps coming up, so I should have more time to work on videos, but also I'll also be playing a lot of, very not video working activities on my computer. So, see ya. I'm recording this at 10:40 p.m. Don't tell anyone.